The Big Ten and the SEC talk possible scheduling partnership, according to ESPN's Heather Dinich, however you say it. And guys, this is nothing new. If you've been following us, we've been talking about this for 250 years now. So you guys already know what to do. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, click the notification bell. Don't just play the game, own the game. I hope you guys have a great day today, all day. So we're going to start it out with this, paraphrase as much of this article as possible. Big Ten and SEC athletic directors will discuss a possible partnership in football scheduling, along with their preferences for automatic bids. Now that's very important in the next iteration of college football playoff. Here's where it's headed. They are going to work together. That's what's going to happen because there's too much money. You think about how much the Big Ten just signed a $10 billion contract. The SEC just signed a $7 billion contract. That's a lot of money. Now, think about how much money it's going to be when Georgia and Michigan face off in the regular season. And then think about how much money it's going to be when Alabama and Ohio State face off in the regular season. Oh, and we're not done. LSU and Penn State. Imagine that. Oh, and it just keeps going on and on and on. You go, what about USC and Texas for a rematch? People are going to be glued to their screen. They'll make more money than the NFL. And then what happens when the Big Ten and SEC push it even further and say, well, we're going to do team revenue sharing, which is already been approved, and they say you can have $22 million approximately to TV revenue sharing, and then the Big Ten and SEC say, well, we're going to work together and schedule each other and make those billions even more billions because our big dogs are going to be facing off during the regular season. We're going to turn it into an NFL format, and they're going to say, well, we're going to take that TV revenue sharing and we're going to push that up to, let's say $50 million. Do you think for a hot second that the ACC and the Big 12 are going to be able to compete with that and steal recruits from them? No. Even Indiana will sit there and go, well, we got $50 million to spend, and they're not going to be bleeding their alumni. They don't have to. Ohio State alone makes $250 million a year in their athletic department. $250, they make the most money of any athletic department on the planet in college football. Period. So the writing's on the wall. It's over. It's done. The Big Ten and SEC are now just making it apparent. They're just showing it out to the world. So the meeting will take place in Nashville, Tennessee next week. Now, this is a continuation of the Big Ten SEC Joint Advisory Group, which was formed in February and includes the league's university presidents, chancellors, athletic directors, and obviously both commissioners from the SEC and Big Ten, which they will meet with them for one day. One Big Ten source said there is hope that we can definitely move the needle and make some progress on different things. I love the different things. It means just how can we turn this into an NFL model and really get the money flowing and get to where we all know it's headed. That's what they want to do. They know it's headed one way. Let's get there. Let's make the most amount of money. Let's change college football forever. And that's what they're going to do. Now, this is a very big one here. The future scheduling partnership could hinge on whether the SEC eventually decides to go to 9 conference games, a topic one SEC source said hasn't been a focus of conversation lately. Of course not. They don't want to talk about it. Some Big Ten athletic directors could push back on any agreement if the SEC doesn't move to 9 games because the Big Ten already plays 9 league opponents. So the Big Ten and the SEC, when they get together, look, when there's no cameras, there's no media, there's no fans, they're going to have real conversations. And in these real conversations, the Big Ten is going to say, look, you guys got to get 9 conference games because we know what you're doing. And the SEC is not going to blow smoke up their ass. It's not going to happen. And here's why. Alabama and Georgia play each other once every 5 to 7 years in the regular season. That is very low compared to Big Ten standards because in the Big Ten, their best teams like Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan play each other and have played each other every single year, and only one could make it out alive. So they don't feel bad for you. They know they have tough competition in the Big Ten. The media doesn't show that because ESPN does not make money for talking good about the Big Ten. It's obvious, right? The fan bases are just following what the media is stating. Very simple. On top of which, the Big Ten says you have to play a non-5 Power 5 opponent for one of your games. Non-conference Power 5 away opponent, which means that if you're like Ohio State, you scheduled Notre Dame and you had to play at Notre Dame. Now, in the SEC, they don't do that. Florida, for the first time, scheduled a non-conference Power 5 away game in 30 years when they played Utah last year at Utah, and they got their ass kicked. There's a reason they don't do that. They know why that is, that they schedule it the way they schedule it. You notice how the SEC, most of the time when they have a non-conference Power 5 team that they're playing, it's at a neutral site. Do you notice how that is? Why do you think that is? I'm sure you could guess. Well, let's look at Alabama's schedule here. Alabama, every single year, will schedule some terrible team before they play Auburn, like Mercer. And if this was Kentucky instead of Mercer, you'd be a lot more nervous because they could perhaps beat you. They struggled against USF. It was 13 to 14 or something like that for majority of the game until the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, when Alabama scored 28 points because USF just fell apart, was trying everything they could to score, and they just fell apart. That game was really close. Georgia struggled against Kentucky. Georgia was 2 points away from being 2-2 on the season right now. Think about that. They were 2 points away from being 2-2 on the season. If you're looking at this in its entirety, you're seeing what the SEC is doing in the Big Ten season. They know what they're doing. LSU, prime example here, right? LSU, and everyone says in the SEC and the media, well, even the worst big SEC team would go in and dominate the Big Ten. You've heard that time and time again. Well, here's where it doesn't look good for the SEC. Prime example, UCLA went to LSU and lost 34-17 at LSU. Indiana the week before went to UCLA and beat them worse than LSU did. Indiana, who's 5-0 on the season right now. Oregon went the week after the LSU game, went to UCLA and beat them worse than LSU did, and LSU played at home. Not a good look. So what's going to happen here is they're going to have real talks, and they're going to say, look, we know what you're doing, and you need to stop doing that. You need to play just like we do. You need to play the same level of talent throughout the year. You got to play more conference games. And I think SEC, they're going to do it. I just think there's too much money involved, and they're going to do it. So one source said, if we're going to all figure this out, we've got to be on equal footing. They're calling out the SEC without calling out the SEC, the guys in suits. One source said, you don't know who it is, but I'm sure you could guess that it's someone in the Big Ten they're calling out the SEC and saying, look, we're going to play equal opportunity here, or we're going to be on the same playing field, and we're going to play the same amount because we know why you've been doing what you've been doing. You get into more bowl games, playing one less conference game, you'll get better recruits, you'll get more money. You've been milking the system, and we know you're milking the system. And so I don't think the SEC is going to fight it for too much longer, and I think they're going to come to grips with it. I think the SEC has fought it for so long because they know they're milking the system, and they don't want to show that they're not as good as what they've been saying, because then when they do start scheduling more conference opponents, you're going to see teams take more losses. When they do start scheduling Big Ten teams, you're going to see upsets that people are not going to believe, would never believe, and they're going to be like, how did Indiana beat this team? What the hell is that? I didn't think they would beat them. You're going to see things happen that's going to push that narrative of what's been pushed for eons, and that's going to go out the window. And then you're going to see a Big Ten SEC coalition is what's going to happen, and it's going to make everyone more money. So the big thing that they're also looking at in this is they want to have more postseason opportunities. Okay, they want to have not only more opportunities, but some have also expressed interest in limiting the role of the 13-member selection committee or eliminating it entirely. That's some big conversation there. They're flexing their power. So right now it's a little bit of a jostle. They're negotiating. Each side has things that they want, and they both realize that if we do this together, we are going to make so much money. It is going to just dominate college football. And in fact, we're probably going to be bigger than the NFL. So another part here, while the future college football playoff format is a long way from being determined, guaranteed bids for 8 of the 14 playoff spots to the SEC and Big Ten would receive significant pushback from others, and already has. Others as in conferences that are just not very good, because they know that they're going to die. That means they're dead. The writing's on the wall. It's going to receive significant pushback, just like they received the same significant pushback from Texas and Oklahoma joining the SEC and all of the good Pac-12 teams joining the Big Ten. That same significant pushback that was received with nothing. Oh, man, hey, we understand your complaints. Please put it in the complaint box, and it's a trash can. That's what it's going to be. In March, the College Football Playoff and ESPN announced a new 6-year, $7.8 billion contract that runs through the 2031-32 season. ESPN secured a 6-year agreement that will cost $1.3 billion annually beginning in the 2026-27 season. The contract is built as either 11 or 13 games, all of which are playoff games, in a 12 or 14 team field. There are protections in place for the ACC, Big Ten, SEC, and Big 12 conference champions. Notre Dame and the highest-ranked Group of 5 champion in the new contract. That's going to start to come to an end because Notre Dame will join the Big Ten. ACC will dissolve, and you're going to just see a collapse. And it's going to be – that's why, look, very, very easily put. Why is the Big Ten and SEC not having these meetings with all those other entities? You know why. Because they don't care to listen to them. All this stuff is like, oh, wow, that's crazy. Oh, wow, that's how you feel? Okay, put it in the complaint box. And you can already see where the power is shifting. In order for some guarantees, though, the other FBS conferences in Notre Dame surrendered the bulk of control over the future format to the SEC and Big Ten. Surrendered. Yeah, you had no other choice. So the next 5 years, what you're going to see is you're going to see the Big Ten and SEC. They're going to work together. They're going to be one super conference. They may not call it that, but that's what they're going to do. You're going to have one division that is going to be the Big Ten. The other division is going to be the SEC. They're going to schedule each other, make so much money, it's going to be insane, and they're going to then give more TV revenue sharing to their players and do like an NFL model, and that's going to go up to 50 to 100 million. Who knows how high that's going to go, and they're going to just be able to buy their rosters outright, and it's going to be insane. Okay, they're going to get rid of the NCAA because what's the NCAA doing this entire time as these meetings are taking place? They're just watching themselves be dethroned. That's all they're doing. They're just going, wow, really, you're going to do that? And that's it. And they're going to schedule each other and say, we're not going to schedule the Big 12 and the ACC because they're going to eat the ACC. And that's how it's going to be. Notre Dame's going to join the Big 10, which is going to make it even worse. Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, Miami, they're all going to leave, go to the Big Ten and SEC, and it's just going to be even worse. And they're just not going to schedule the crappy conferences, and they're going to make all the money, and that's how it's going to be. That's our prediction.